to talk about is the new map that might be coming for the next season. And this is actually a screenshot from the map preferences menu. In the technical test server, they only have access to play House, Consulate, and Chalet. They can't play anything outside of those 3 maps, but the map preferences list still exists. And if you go in there, you do see this entry for Theme Park. This appears right underneath Bartlett University and Coastline and shows that it would be like the next map in the rotation. We don't know anything about it other than the name we see here, Theme Park. So this leads us to believe that this could be the name of the next map we will see for next season. This starts about mid-May sometime. Theme parks aren't exactly new to Rainbow Six. They were mentioned in the novel as well as making an appearance in a previous game, and they were usually called World Park Theme Park. There are a couple of very prevalent theme parks that are located in Hong Kong. There's Hong Kong Disneyland, and there's also Ocean Park. Ocean Park is located not too far away from where the SDU is based out of, and that could be a very likely location for us to see in the game. If it is a theme park, you know, this could just be a placeholder name. It may be subject to change. We don't actually know what the map looks like, but this gives us a probable name and location. And that does bring me to a major point that I want to cover. Everything in the technical test server is for testing purposes only. It's all subject to change. So while a lot of the things that I'm talking about here, both with the new map and the other details that I'm about to show you and talk about, are subject to change, but they may not make it into the final launch that we see. It might not even be something that will appear in next season. It may be in an update further down from that. Some of these concepts could just be things that they're trying out and experimenting with. None of the footage that comes from the technical test server, none of the information that comes from that is anything that is like written in stone. It is all subject to change. What it does show is things that they are definitely thinking about doing and trying, and it does have a strong likelihood of being what we'll see or something very close to it. But again, nothing is 100% concrete in the test server because it is a testing environment. Also, in relation to the Hong Kong season, we have some interesting information on what the new operators might be. A few people have been digging into the file structure in the PC build of the game and going in there and looking at some of the references. There have been a bunch of people doing this and posting it on social media and in a bunch of other places where you can find these kinds of things. And most of the images that various people have been posting have been showing kind of this same file structure. So just for reference, you can see up here at the top that we have some examples of a character build for Hibana. And then below that, you can see we have character SDU and then Caltrep. So here's the thing. The SDU is going to denote the CTU because we know that Hong Kong is a special duties unit. And we saw that with Hibana, there was the SAT, so that matches up. So SDU is our CTU in question. This is the menu that has the character information on it. And so these all reference a character named Caltrep, just like Hibana was referenced above. Then going down a little bit below that, we have SDU Dazzler. So it seems like the next 2 characters' names might be Caltrep and Dazzler. Now, we really have no idea what this could possibly mean for what their abilities might be. Caltreps are, of course, these spiky little things that get thrown down, and they're used in siege warfare. They actually come in a few different flavors. There's infantry caltreps, and there are cavalry caltreps that are of a larger quality, but the point being is that they're made so that when you step on these things, that the person then takes, you know, a lot of damage and they're incapacitated and they can't advance forward. You would scatter these all over the ground. They can be a little hard to see depending on the conditions. And this definitely sounds like something that would be like a defensive kind of an operator for having something that you would spread out on the ground. However, an initial question would be like, what might make that different, for instance, than barbed wire? Well, that's a really good question. We simply don't know enough about this operator and what they might be able to bring to the table yet. The other reference for Dazzler is interesting because a Dazzler is actually kind of a non-lethal attachment that you can put onto firearms. They're used in law enforcement, also a little bit in military applications. And the concept behind this is that it's a non-lethal way to distract, disable, or disarm an enemy. It looks like a flashlight, but it's not. It wouldn't be something like Blitz's ability where like you stun them with a bright flash of light. That's not what a Dazzler is. A Dazzler is actually more of like a strobing device where it causes disorientation and discomfort. The effect would actually be maybe a little bit more similar to Echoes, where you just kind of get like a little swimmy and dizzy and you can't see straight. It's very disorienting. Think of it if you've ever been in a room with a strobe light flashing on and off in the darkness, and the way that movement just feels funny and disorienting. That's kind of what a Dazzler is intended to do. Now again, that's just this specific weapon attachment. This may not even be that. We don't know enough information. Next up, we have some footage to look at regarding the menu setup. Now, I am not actually in the technical test server. It's only open to people in portions of Europe right now. It's a very limited test, only on PC. So, living in the United States, I don't have access to that. They may open that up for further testing later on to other people and wider groups. But as of right now, it's not something I can get into. However, user VLN Leon was kind enough to share some of this footage with me to show me what it looks like currently with this new setup. So let's begin by taking a look at the operator select screen. And you can see that this is a change from what it used to look like. So now we have it laid out slightly differently. We have more of this blocky icon style that matches the change that we saw in the UI with last season's Velvet Shell update. Next up, we get our first peek at what some of the layout will be regarding this new rarity structure for the alpha packs, or the loot packs as some people have been kind of referring to them. We can see here below the name of the weapon skin is the word common. This kind of denotes the rarity structure that it falls within. In my previous video, I had shared with you how they were talking about the rarity structure, that there's going to be like common and uncommon, rare and elite and legendary, and so that these were going to have different tiers of how common they would be for when you would earn these alpha pack unlocks. So here's a reference to one of the structures, common. These names are not finalized, though the assignments to the categories, which ones are in which tiers, are not finalized. This is just placeholder stuff. Looking over on the other side, we can see that these have like these little tags on them. So these little gray tags apparently indicate that these are all like common tags. And you can see how placeholder this is, because like the first couple there, like the gray and the black, have them. And then the other items in the list for the colors for universal weapon skins do not have any tags at all. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot earn those through the alpha loot packs. Maybe they really won't have them. We don't know, but we can see that some have these tags and some don't. Going into the weapon charms, you can also see some of the same things going on here. Here we get a look at some of these where we have like uncommon or rare or epic, and they have these little symbols that go with them, which are a little different than the flags that were on the weapon skins, but they still give you a clue as to the placement within the rarity structure. We do know that this applies to weapon skins, charms, and headgear. I've been asked before if anybody thinks that we'll be getting these for uniforms. I don't know the answer to that question. I think that would be a really cool thing because uniforms are pretty awesome and they're a little on the expensive side for renown. So if you had a chance to earn them, maybe they were a rare drop, that would be really cool. Now let's take a look at the multiplayer setup here. So what this looks like is a little bit different than what we've seen before, and we have a few interesting things on the screen. You'll notice down here in the corner of the screen, it says you can visit the home, shop, and operator section during matchmaking. You will be notified when your match is ready. So now you launch matchmaking, and right now we have these awkward times. You might be sitting there waiting for a minute and a half or 2 minutes or whatever it might be, but you can fill that time. Again, this is in the technical test server. You can fill that time by checking out the operators, switching around weapon attachments or skins, and you're in matchmaking waiting for the match to begin while you're doing these things. You can even go to the shop and you can browse items and decide if you want to pick something up. You'll see in the upper bar there, we have a reference to the multiplayer, what mode you're in, whether it's casual or ranked, an estimated wait time, and then how long you've been in the queue. So while you're browsing items, you can still kind of have that reference as you're going about things. When the game does launch, we have a little bit of a different operator selection screen than we're used to seeing. The recruit is up on the very top there, isolated by himself, and then the other operators are kind of laid out in a different arrangement. It's more of a horizontal arrangement. Now that's leading up to the beginning of the match. However, when you end the match, there's also now some different features that we can see. At the bottom of the screen here, and let's just pause this and sit on this for a second, we have find another match or keep playing as a team. If you don't choose anything, you will just then go back to the menu, and there's also a little icon on the right side there to do the same as well. So if you like the group you're playing with, you can choose to keep playing with them, or you can get tossed into some random matchmaking again. Another image that came up on the technical test server was this one, and it was listed as possibly a bug. This comes courtesy of Reddit user Geno, and it shows something interesting. We have a defensive operator outside with the "you are detected" message, but we don't kind of have like that vomit yellow-green filter on the screen that makes vision a little bit harder to see. It looks pretty much normal, and it just has a "you are detected" message. Now, he originally posted this with the comment thinking that maybe this was a bug, it wasn't intended. However, being a test server, they may be testing out the feasibility of this in the game. Defenders going outside is kind of a controversial thing. A lot of people don't like it, but in other cases, it's certainly a viable tactic, and it does look like the character is still being detected by the enemy team, and they're just not getting that yellow filter on the screen. So is this a bug, or is this an intended feature that they're testing to see how it works? At this time, that information isn't really known. These next clips come to us courtesy of a few people on the subreddit. So this first one is from Toradoki. I actually have 2 clips from him, and he shows examples of how Blitz's hitbox is now changed for his helmet. You can now see that he can safely fire through the earmuffs there and not get a hit registration on that. This other clip also reinforces that. This is from Reddit user Black and shows pretty much the same thing. And we can also see that we can fire through the face visor from the profile and it will not score a hit. So he has a smaller head hitbox now. This should make Blitz a completely viable character, because he can actually be behind the safety of his shield and not be picked off with headshots just because parts of his helmet stick out the sides. Once again, as I mentioned before, these are changes that are not necessarily going to be coming in the next update or the update after that. You know, they could come down the road at any time. They may not actually be implemented, especially in this case, though. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. This is something everybody's been asking for, and it makes a ton of sense to do. But just remember, anything in this video on the test server is subject to change. It's just in a testing environment. It may not actually make it to the game, or it may make it into the game in a different form than what we see. So what do you guys think about these things? I mean, does this look like they're taking things in the right direction, testing these changes out before bringing them to the bigger game, getting a chance to kind of work the bugs out of the system before they do? What do you think about some of the things we have leaked regarding the Hong Kong operators for both what they might be able to do or the theme park map? You can let me know down in the comments below or send me a message over at IcyCat25 on either Facebook or Twitter. Also, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing for more great content. As always, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.